Hey y'all, this is another lawsuit thing that was filed against the executors, I believe, of Jeffrey Epstein's estate. But it says that December 23rd, 2019, filing for Fort Lauderdale attorney Bradley J. Edwards against the lawyer settling the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. So filing number 100732381 e-file 12/23/2019 in the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit in and for Palm Beach County, Florida. J.J. Doe, plaintiff, versus Darren K. Endyke and Richard D. Kahn as co-executors of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. The plaintiff J.J. Doe, by and through her undersigned counsel, sues the defendant Darren K. Endyke and Richard D. Kahn as co-executors of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein and alleges the general allegations as to all accounts. One, this is an action in an amount in excess of $15,000, exclusive of interest and costs, and is within the jurisdictional limits of this court. Two, this complaint is brought under a fictitious name in order to protect the identity of the plaintiff because the complaint makes allegations of a sensitive sexual nature. Three, at all times material to this cause of action, the plaintiff, J.J. Doe, hereinafter referred to as plaintiff, was a resident of Palm Beach County, Florida. Four, at all times material to this cause of action, now deceased, Jeffrey Epstein had a residence located at 358 El Brio Way, West Palm Beach, County, Florida. Five, at all times material to this cause of action, Jeffrey Epstein was an adult male born in 1953. This court has jurisdiction over this action as all of the tortious allegations within this complaint occurred in the West Palm Beach, Florida. Seven, while incarcerated in New York on federal sex trafficking charges against minors, Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide and is deceased. Eight, Jeffrey Epstein's estate was opened in the United States Virgin Islands, and Darren K. Endyke and Richard D. Kahn were appointed co-executors of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, thereby the appropriate defendant now standing to legally answer for the tortious actions of Jeffrey Epstein is Darren K. Endyke and Richard D. Kahn as co-executors of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. Nine, while alive, Jeffrey Epstein had a sexual attraction toward young females, especially those under the age of majority. 10, the plaintiff was first brought to Jeffrey Epstein's mansion in 2003 when she was 14 years old. 11, the then minor plaintiff was a vulnerable child without adequate parental support at all times, material to this complaint. Jeffrey Epstein, a wealthy financier with a lavish home, significant wealth, and a network of assistants and employees, used his resources and his influence over a vulnerable minor child to engage in a tortious and illegal criminal sexual conduct against plaintiff. 12, another minor female who was also abused and manipulated into sexual misconduct by Jeffrey Epstein approached plaintiff and asked if she wanted to make money, giving a wealthy guy in Palm Beach a massage. 13, massage was a code word used by Jeffrey Epstein and his recruiters and assistants to provide innocent or innocuous cover to lure minor females to his home, where he would begin the encounter as a massage and turn it into an illegal sexual encounter of sexual molestation and abuse, a process Jeffrey Epstein performed with numerous young females over many years and had perfected by the time he encountered plaintiff. 14, plaintiff was offered $200 to give Jeffrey Epstein a massage as enticement to cause her to go to Jeffrey Epstein's home. 15, this other minor child who recruited plaintiff on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein was paid a $200 finder's fee by Jeffrey Epstein for bringing plaintiff to him, an enticement to cause her to bring other minor children to Jeffrey Epstein. Through this system of paying minor children to bring him other minor children who he would also pay, Jeffrey Epstein was able to molest dozens, if not hundreds, of children, including plaintiff. 17, in or about the summer of 2003, Jeffrey Epstein, when plaintiff went to Jeffrey Epstein's home, plaintiff was led upstairs. Remember the pink carpet, if you watched any of the videos of his home, was led upstairs to Jeffrey Epstein's bedroom by one of Jeffrey Epstein's assistants. 18, once in the bedroom, plaintiff was led to a massage table where massage oils were laid out, giving the appearance that a legitimate professional massage atmosphere existed. Okay, so 19, Jeffrey Epstein's mansion, where the sexual molestation of plaintiff took place, was massive, and the bedroom where plaintiff encountered Jeffrey Epstein was upstairs with no easy way out, giving the impression plaintiff was trapped. Within minutes of plaintiff being in his room, Jeffrey Epstein appeared wearing only a towel and laid on his massage table. Therefore, Jeffrey Epstein instructed plaintiff to provide him a massage, during which he told plaintiff to take off her clothes. Out of fear, plaintiff complied with Jeffrey Epstein's demands. Jeffrey Epstein then proceeded to pinch plaintiff's nipples, demand and cause plaintiff to pinch his nipples, touch plaintiff's bare breast, and fondle and touch her bare vagina. Sorry. This is so gross. But I think this is the same one that was in the grand jury testimony, and she didn't want to be there and all that stuff. But if you go back and look through the Epstein grand jury from 2006, I think that's what it says. That's I believe what she was describing. Anyway, so during the encounter, plaintiff resisted Jeffrey Epstein's advances and demands, yet was assured if she complied, then he would stop and it would end soon end. 25, the illegal sexual encounter ended with Jeffrey Epstein masturbated to completion in the presence of plaintiff. 26, during the encounter, Jeffrey Epstein committed lewd and lascivious sexual acts against the then minor plaintiff. These acts included, but were not limited to, fondling and an inappropriate, illegal sexual touching of the then minor plaintiff, forcing or inducing the then minor plaintiff into sexual misconduct, masturbation by Jeffrey Epstein in the presence of the then minor plaintiff, handling and fondling of the then minor plaintiff's sexual organs, including her breast and vagina. Okay. 27. Jeffrey Epstein used his unequal bargaining power through his obvious age and wealth disparity, as well as fear through implied or stated threats and manipulation to cause and coerce plaintiff to fall victim to the abusive sexual conduct. Jeffrey Epstein did pay plaintiff at the completion of the sexual encounter that was initiated under the guise of a massage, thereby causing plaintiff to engage in a demeaning act, technically constituting an act of prostitution while molesting her as a child. Count 1, cause of action pursuant to Florida State 796.09 against defendant Jeffrey Epstein. The plaintiff adopts and alleges paragraph 1 through 8 above. The allegations contained here in count 2 are a separate and distinct statutory legal remedy. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy, powerful man, and plaintiff was an economically disadvantaged and impressionable minor child. Facts known of Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein used his vast wealth and power to coerce plaintiff into acts constituting prostitution through his payment for sexually molesting plaintiff. 33, Jeffrey Epstein coerced plaintiff into these acts constituting prostitution in one or more of the following ways. A, domination of her mind and body through exploitive techniques. B, inducement. C, promise of greater financial rewards. D, exploitation of a condition of developmental disability or cognitive limitation. E, exploitation of human needs for food, shelter, or affection. F, exploitation of underprivileged and vulnerable economic condition or situation. G, use of a system of recruiting other similarly situated minor girls to further coerce and induce plaintiff into the lifestyle of prostitution. And H, exploitation through demonstration of abundant wealth and power to impress a young and vulnerable minor plaintiff and to coerce her into acts legally constituting prostitution. 34, as a direct and proximate result of the offenses committed by Jeffrey Epstein against plaintiff pursuant to Florida Statute 796.09, the plaintiff has in the past suffered and will in the future suffer physical injury, pain, and suffering, emotional distress, psychological trauma, mental anguish, humiliation, embarrassment, loss of self esteem, loss of dignity, invasion of her privacy, disability, disfigurement, and loss of the capacity of the enjoyment of life. The then minor plaintiff incurred medical and psychological expenses, and the plaintiff will in the future suffer additional medical and psychological expenses. These injuries are permanent in nature, and the plaintiff will continue to suffer these losses in the future. Wherefore, the plaintiff, J.J. Doe, demands judgment against the defendant, Darren K. Endyke and Richard D. Kahn, as co-executors of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein for compensatory damages, punitive damages, attorney's fees, and such other and further relief as this court deems just and proper, and hereby demands trial by jury on all issues triable as of a right by jury, Count 2, emotional infliction of emotional distress or intentional infliction of emotional distress. 35. The plaintiff adopts and realleges paragraph 1 through 28 above. 36. Jeffrey Epstein's conduct toward the then minor plaintiff was intentional, reckless, and was outrageous in character, and so extreme in degree, going beyond all bounds of decency. 37. Jeffrey Epstein's intentional, deliberate, and reckless conduct caused severe emotional distress to the plaintiff. Jeffrey Epstein, at the time he committed these numerous sexual acts against plaintiff, had a specific intent to harm the then minor plaintiff, and his conduct did so harm the plaintiff. 38. As a direct and proximate result of the offenses committed by Jeffrey Epstein against plaintiff, the plaintiff has in the past suffered and will in the future suffer physical injury, pain, and suffering, emotional distress, psychological trauma, mental anguish, humiliation, embarrassment, loss of self esteem, loss of dignity, invasion of her privacy, disability, disfigurement, and loss of the capacity for the enjoyment of life. The then minor plaintiff incurred medical and psychological expenses, and the plaintiff will in the future suffer additional medical and psychological expenses. These injuries are permanent in nature, and the plaintiff will continue to suffer these losses in the future. Wherefore, the plaintiff, J.J. Doe, demands judgment against the defendant, Darren K. Endyke and Richard D. Kahn, as co-executors of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein for compensatory damages and such other and further relief as this court deems just and proper, and hereby demands trial by jury on all issues triable as of right by jury. Count 3, battery. 39. The plaintiff, J.J. Doe, repeats and alleges paragraphs 1 through 28 above. 40. Jeffrey Epstein did in fact intentionally touch plaintiff J.J. Doe on her person against her will and or without her legal consent. 41. Jeffrey Epstein battered plaintiff sexually and that he touched her in intimate areas of her body and person in an offensive manner while she was a minor child. The touchings were without plaintiff's consent. 42. Defendant Epstein touched plaintiff in an intimate area of her body while plaintiff was 14 years old. 43. The conduct described in this count constitutes battery against the person of the then minor plaintiff. 44. As a direct and proximate result of the offenses committed by Jeffrey Epstein against plaintiff, the plaintiff has in the past suffered and will in the future suffer physical injury, pain and suffering, emotional distress, psychological trauma, mental anguish, humiliation, embarrassment, loss of self-esteem, loss of dignity, invasion of her privacy, disability, disfigurement, and loss of the capacity of the enjoyment of life. The then minor plaintiff incurred medical and psychological expenses, and the plaintiff will in the future suffer additional medical and psychological expenses. These injuries are permanent in nature, and the plaintiff will continue to suffer these losses in the future. Wherefore, plaintiff demands judgment against the defendant Darren K. Endyke and Richard D. Kahn as co-executors of the estate of Jeffrey Epstein for compensatory damages and such other and further relief as the court deems just and proper, and hereby demands trial by jury on all issues triable as of right by a jury. Certificate regarding e-filing and service. I hereby certify that this complaint was filed electronically on December 23rd, 2019, in compliance with Florida Rules of Judicial Administration 2.515 and 2.516E. I further certify for purposes of services of any documents after initial process that staff e-file, whatever appeal is primary. And then Edwards Pottinger, level C, and then by Bradley J. Edwards, Florida bar number, and then Brittany N. Henderson, Florida bar number, attorneys for plaintiff. So anyway, that's just one, I guess, of the civil lawsuits that were filed after Jeffrey Epstein passed. But anyway, talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.